and welcome to episode 91. And it's taken me a while to realise I've never done this particular comparison before. People who watch the channel will know that I quite like AKG 414s. I have done for a long time. But back in the 90s, there was a sort of newcomer to the mic market. Technica, the Japanese firm, came out with the 4033 cardioids. And they were condenser mics. They were really heavy, they were really chunky, they were really nice. And they were endorsed by Alan Parsons. Now, I mean, as record producers go, I mean, I've always had a lot of respect for Alan Parsons, and I figured that when he put his name on something, well, that'd be really good. But the snag was, they were damn expensive. And so I never really got one for my own. I used a few from time to time. There was a 4033, followed by a 4033A, which was just sort of a slightly evolved product. Essentially the same mic. A condenser, it's got a little button on the back that you can put a 10 dB pad in, and there's a bass roll off, so all common features like that. But the 4033A got some really good results, and it was a decent, well-respected mic, but just expensive for what was at that time a Japanese microphone. Over the years, I did notice something. Whenever you looked at the spec for 4033s, and if you Google them, you'll find people like Sound on Sound reviewed them and stuff like that. There's very little information about the capsule, apart from the fact that it was an electret. And obviously, you know, proper polarised capsules with 48 volt phantom power and big were the norm. So you actually had a conventional, historically developed capsule. And then the Japanese were very good at making electrets with permanently polarised capsules. And the 4033 has got one of those. But when you look through the grill, it's quite big. And I think I even saw a couple of reviews where that people referred to it as a 33mm capsule. And the truth of the matter is, they weren't. And very few people pulled apart expensive microphones and then published what they found, especially when you paid a lot of money for them. And the 4033A, and there's one sitting here, has actually got an electric capsule in that's 11mm. So it's a small diaphragm condenser. The beauty was nobody ever noticed because they sounded sort of big and round. So let's cut straight across to them. Here's the two mics. We're on the SM7B comparison. Let's switch across straight away to the 414. So now we're going to be switching really between the 414 and the 4033A. So you can hear what they sound like. The 414's in its normal mode, so it's in cardioid. Pad is not applied, nor is the bass roll off. Exactly the same as I've got the 4033A set up for. So let's switch to the 4033A. So you see, two mics, sort of similar sounding, both expensive, one more expensive than the other, of course. I mean, the 414 with all the extra gizmos to allow it to have variable polar patterns puts the price up. But realistically, when the 414 was being sold for its price, the Audio Tech came in at a sort of healthy half. So at the moment, I think a 4033A is going to set you back £400-500. You can get a 414 of one of the different versions for around about £800-900 if you want to. So that's the difference between these two mics. The weird thing is that all through its life, the feature that in actual fact it's a small diaphragm condenser never pops up in the adverts. There's very few people comment, and quite a few people comment about them being LDCs, and they actually talk about the large 32 diameter because that's what you see when you peer through the grill. If you pull one to pieces, I'll pop the picture up, you can see that in actual fact you've got a rather sort of sneaky way of doing it. There's actually a large aluminium spun part, and in the middle of it is the small diaphragm condenser mounted right in the middle. So in actual fact, once you take the grill off, it's extremely obvious that the thing with the holes in is not the back plate for an LDC. It's just a way of holding a small element in a large mount. And they managed to get away with it all these years. and nobody ever seemed to call them out for it. So it was a bit of an interesting product. But I thought you'd just like to have a comparison between these two mics. In actual fact, I rather like the sound of the 4033A. And again, it's one of those microphones that if you had one, you would probably use it for everything because it's a pretty good all-rounder. It's pretty sensitive, it sounds nice, and it definitely sounds bigger than what it is. I will just do one final experiment for you. I'll go in close so you can hear the sound of these microphones in close. So here I am in nice and close to these microphones. So we've got the 414, so you're listening to me on the 414 at the moment, and we've got about a hand span between the microphone and my voice. And we're now going to the 4033A. So this is me close in on the 4033A. Quite a few people would like to use these for radio, I noticed as well. So they are a nice broadcast sounding microphone. So to finish off, the sound of me close in on the SM7B, which I very rarely do. So there we go. A couple of mics that rarely get compared with each other. AKG 414 versus the Audio Technica 4033A. What did you think? Anyway, have yourselves a good week. Look after yourselves. Take care.